Hey Eagle fans, before we start today's video, all about the trade deadline, name a player you would want the Eagles to go ahead and trade for. With the upcoming trade deadline just, 10 days away on the 3rd? Give me a name for a player down below right now in the comments section. Alright, so as you saw in the title of this video, we're going to give you guys 5 players Philadelphia could potentially trade for at the NFL trade deadline. A lot of little weird rumors are starting to swirl around here. Will Philly be buyers? Will they be sellers? Win on Thursday night tells you they're probably going to be buyers. Maybe they could go, get rid of one of their players and then bring in somebody else, but I think they're going to make at least one move going into the trade deadline. So we're going to break down some names that you could see possibly in the news the coming days and weeks. Let's start with the big one. And we'll get down to more realistic ones. The big one is Julio Jones. And Julio Jones is not a realistic trade option just based on the cost and the money. But he is a real trade option because the real report is Atlanta could be a seller at the trade deadline. And anytime you have the best receiver in the NFL on the trading block, Philadelphia's name gets thrown in there because they have not had a true number one wide receiver dating back to really Terrell Owens, which is like forever ago, back in 2004. So the question then becomes, with 3 years left on his deal, how much would you be willing to go ahead and give up to get Carson Wentz a number one target? What would Julio Jones cost? That's all I care about, is how much it would take to go ahead and get him. We already know Philadelphia is in cap hell in 2021, which might create an even just bigger issue overall in terms of the trade deadline. They might not be able to add anybody because of future contracts. But the main question is Julio Jones worth the price of admission? We know he's a great football player. Dealt with some injuries the past couple of years, but if he can stay healthy, he's the best wide receiver in the National Football League by far. But the main question becomes the contract. So here's what the contract looks like right now for Julio Jones going forward the next couple of years. You would owe him about $11 million this year, $15 in 2021, and then $11.5 the next 2 years. So not big time money. And of course, he's got some extra bonuses mixed in there. But Atlanta is going to eat a lot of dead cap if they go ahead and trade Julio Jones. But I think the main question here is he worth a first-round draft pick? The answer might be yes, but is he worth a first-round draft pick to Philadelphia? I've said before, I'd give up a second-round draft pick and a fifth or a third or a fourth. 2 picks there, that's not a first for Julio Jones in a heartbeat. I mean, if they wanted to go a second and a fourth, done. Like a signed, sealed, delivered. Make it happen. But a first to me is a little bit too much for what is, honestly, an aging wide receiver who has had some hamstring problems the past couple of years. And so Julio is the big fish out there, right? He's the cherry on top. He's the one that everybody wants and potentially could go ahead and end up be a Philadelphia Eagle. But I think the odds of it happening are a lot less than the rest of the players we're going to go ahead and show you on this list. But everyone wants to talk about Julio, so we'll talk about Julio first. Give me an answer to this pinned comment down below. I'm very curious. Would you give up a first-round draft pick for Julio Jones? Like, would you give up your 2021 first for Julio just to get him on the team for the final 8 games of the year and then hopefully in the future? Let me know in the comments section down below. Also, if they do make a trade, just make sure your notification bell is turned on because the day they make a trade is the day that we're covering it here on the channel. So just make sure you guys are subbed because that's going to happen most likely next week in terms of, trade deadline, November 3rd. So make sure you guys are subbed with the notification bell and ready to go. Okay, some more realistic players here. The first of which is one we talked about a couple of days ago, and that is the wide receiver John Ross from Cincinnati. Now, you probably recognize the name. He's the speedster from the NFL Combine a couple of years ago, but really underperformed in Cincinnati and underused in Cincinnati as well, to the point that he has requested a trade and wants out because he's in the final year of his deal and he knows that he needs to be getting playing time in order to be able to get a new deal that's worth a decent amount of money. Now, the speed fits the mold, and that's why people bring him up here, because Philadelphia in the offseason, Goodwin, Hightower, Rager, Jackson, all the additions were basically to create a speed, Kansas City type offense, and that's kind of fallen through the cracks because of all the injuries, Rager and Jackson being out for the majority of this year. But Ross would go ahead and fit that mold. But again, the question is he going to be a good football player, because he really hasn't been in Cincinnati? So it's a low-risk, high-reward trade because he probably wouldn't cost that much in terms of what you would give up, like a 6th or a 7th round draft pick, and he only cost $800,000 against your cap in 2020, and he's a free agent in 2021, so you could essentially let him go if he absolutely stinks. What I would not let go is these deals on some brand new Salute to Service official Philadelphia Eagles gear right now at chatsports.com/Philly Salute. I'll be honest, I got one of those official Philly Salute Salute to Service hoodies last year, the brown ones, fantastic. Wear it all the time. It's incredible Nike quality, great stuff. And the ones this year, the hat, the hoodie looks fantastic. So go ahead and pick one of them up, chatsports.com/Philly Salute. They have the hats, the hoodies, the t-shirts. You're seeing them on your screen right now. The Salute to Service jerseys. I'm telling you, the hoodie that I got last year, incredible. I wear it almost every single day whenever it's cold here. So I highly encourage you guys to jump on the deal. Link is down below in the description box. How about some names on defense here? Zach Cunningham, to me, would be a massive get for Philadelphia. Philadelphia. We talked about how the Texans are going to be sellers at the NFL trade deadline a couple of days ago here on the channel. That's what Jason Lockett-Four from the NFL Network first reported. Now, the Texans have denied this, but just because you deny it doesn't mean it's not actually going to be true. But we know the Eagles need linebacker help. We talked about this for days and days and days, right? You can get excited about Sean Bradley and, his special teams play, but he's not ready to be a starting linebacker in Philadelphia. And then, the Singletons of the world and Nathan Garys of the world, it's a very bad linebacking group. I love Cunningham. He's a great outside linebacker. By Pro Football Focus's numbers, he's having a down year, but he in 2019 was one of the best outside cover linebackers in the NFL. I think would instantly upgrade the position. If Philly doesn't make a move for a linebacker at the trade deadline, they 100% have to, next offseason, sign somebody or draft somebody. They could have solved this all if they would have drafted Kenneth Murray in the first round. They could have with where they were sitting in the NFL draft. They went with Reagor first. Not saying Rager's a bad pick, but still, they need linebacker depth because the depth chart, and as you see, it's been bad, and it will continue to be bad and continue to be the worst, really, position group right now in Philadelphia. What is the biggest need right now for the Eagles? Because I think it's linebacker, but people want to say wide receiver or O-line. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I totally get linebacker. I totally get O-line. I totally get wide receiver. All of those are needs. What's the biggest, though? I'm still going with linebacker. I am still going with linebacker. What might be your biggest need is some extra cash in your pocket as the holidays are coming up here. And so you go ahead and use some of your money to make more money by betting on Philadelphia or other NFL teams. Chatsports.com/EaglesBet with our friends at BetUS is the place to go. And when you use the promo code Eagles125, you get a 125% deposit bonus whenever you first sign up. So a little extra cha-ching in your pocket. Maybe get your wife or your kid the new iPhone. You could win then your money, and basically it becomes free if you actually bet correctly. Chatsports.com/EaglesBet. Promo code is Eagles125. Another linebacker that I saw in an ESPN projected trade with it's Hassan Reddick, the linebacker out of Temple, first-round draft pick of the Cardinals, and now is losing a ton of snaps to Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker out of Clemson that Arizona took early on in the 2020 NFL draft. Another option in terms of making the linebacker core a little bit better. Reddick's snaps have gone down, but it's just because Simmons is absolutely fantastic. He's still a very good player. Reddick comes from Temple, played a lot of games at Lincoln Financial Field because he was an Owl, and I think he's a guy that could make Philadelphia a lot better overall. Quickly, this was a projected trade where they would trade Zach Ertz, and it was Ertz to the Cardinals for Reddick and a pick. And it's like, I would do it. It's not a bad trade, but of course, with Ertz being injured right now, you can't trade him because he is on short-term IR. Final player on my list is the cornerback Bradley Roby, another Texan who could be traded at the deadline here. I think the Texans, again, might be sellers just based on where they're at in terms of the division and where they're at in terms of the entire AFC. The reason I say this is an option, but not, to me, the best option is because I still think the Eagles secondary is decent enough to win football games, and once Maddox comes back, it could be even better. Now, Jalen Mills moved to corner, played really, really well a couple weeks ago, and then on Thursday night was really bad against the Giants. I mean, he couldn't stick to anybody. He really struggled in coverage, but I think the Slay trade has really turned out to be a good move. So if you wanted to add Roby, you're adding some cornerback depth in case you don't trust the Cravon LeBlancs of the world, you don't trust Jalen Mills, you don't trust Avonte Maddox to go ahead and come back healthy. So you get a guy like Bradley Roby, who was a fantastic nickel guy with Denver for years, and then came over in a trade, or I think they signed him in the offseason in Houston. Either way, he's been a good addition to the Houston Texans. I think he would add some depth to a secondary that is not, it's not bad. I don't think it's anything just to, get upset about. I think it's still, if the Eagles had good linebacking core and were healthy, I think the secondary would be the best we've seen in a very, very long time, because you got to remember, last couple of years, the secondary's been abysmally terrible. But with that being said, I think Roby could be an option, again, at the right price. All of these players, let's just review really quickly, are totally gettable, and I would totally do it for the right price. Julio, can't give up a first for Julio Jones. It's too much. But then you go John Ross, later on draft pick. Zach Cunningham, fourth, a fifth, right? Pretty cheap for a linebacker. Reddick, again, not playing a lot, so he becomes a little bit cheaper overall, a fourth or a fifth. And then you go ahead and wrap it up with Bradley Roby, maybe a fifth or a sixth. These are all moves that help Philadelphia, are not too expensive, and I think would give the Eagles a little bit more hope and at least a healthy player and a healthy body to throw out there with their quest to win the NFC East. So there you go. All time we have for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Just wanted to jump in here, give you some trade options going into the weekend, because next week is essentially going to be the trade week. If they make a move, it'll happen next week or next weekend, and so stay tuned. We'll have full coverage in case Philadelphia does make a move, and with the win on Thursday, I think that becomes a lot more of a possibility, which is good news for you and me, because we like to talk about Philadelphia here, and it would help out, hopefully, the Eagles going forward trying to win their games. All time we have for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I am your host, Thomas Mott. As we sign off this weekend, I'll see you guys back on Monday or Tuesday of next week for the latest updates on everything going on with the Eagles. Again, all time we have for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off for the rest of your day.